Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Thanks for having me.
This time we're tackling something you guys specifically requested, a deep dive into mindsets and how they influence success.
Lots of requests about this one.
You bet. You sent over that awesome YouTube video summarizing Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success.
Great video.
Really gets into how our beliefs shape our actions. We're going beyond just the typical self-help stuff today.
For sure.
Really going to get into some psychology here.
Yeah, I think this video does a really good job of that. Jumps right into Dweck's big idea, the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Right. And it's not just some like feel-good concept. It's like it really digs into how we view our abilities.
Exactly.
How that impacts our choices, whether it's in school, work, or even our personal relationships.
It's everywhere, really. When you start to see it, you can't unsee it.
You know, I think a lot of us have heard these terms thrown around.
Yeah, I've heard them.
But this video really broke it down in a way that made it, like, click for me. They start by comparing these two mindsets. A fixed mindset is believing your talents are etched in stone.
Like you're born with it.
Yeah. You're either born smart, athletic, or whatever, or you're not. And I'm already like seeing how that could hold you back.
Absolutely. I mean, it makes sense that a fixed mindset leads to a fear of failure.
Right.
Because if you think your abilities are fixed, then messing up feels like solid proof that you lack ability.
Like you hit your limit.
Yeah, exactly. And the flip side, a growth mindset sees potential everywhere. The idea is that intelligence and skills can be developed through effort and learning.
So it's not that you're not good at something, it's just that you haven't developed that skill yet.
Right, and that you can develop it with enough effort.
The video uses some great examples to show this in action. Like, in school, someone with a fixed mindset might avoid tough classes, while someone with a growth mindset sees those classes as a challenge to conquer.
Right, it's like they're both facing the same mountain, but with totally different attitudes about whether they can climb it.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the video doesn't just stay in the classroom. It pulls in examples from all over sports, business, even relationships. Seeing these mindsets play out in so many different areas really drives home the point that this affects almost everything we do.
Okay, I have to bring up the Michael Jordan example because it was mind-blowing. He was actually cut from his high school basketball team.
I know, right? It's crazy to think about.
But instead of giving up, it totally fueled his drive to improve.
He used it as motivation.
It makes you wonder how many potential superstars are out there quitting because they have that fixed mindset whispering in their ear.
Telling them they're not good enough.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's not just about overcoming setbacks. The video uses the example of John McEnroe. He was unbelievably talented at tennis.
Oh, for sure.
But he had this fixed mindset.
You could see it in his behavior.
He was famous for blaming losses on anything but himself, the refs, the court.
Anything to avoid looking at what he could have done better.
Yeah, anything. So talent alone isn't enough. It's how you approach that talent, how you use it, that really determines your path.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's all about how you view your abilities and whether you believe you can improve.
Right. It's like talent is the raw material.
Yeah, like the clay.
And mindset is the blueprint that decides what gets built.
What kind of pot you're going to make. I think one of the things that surprised me about this video was that it wasn't saying talent doesn't exist.
Right.
It was more about understanding that talent is just the starting line.
The potential.
Yeah, and it's the mindset that determines how far you go. It's like that quote from the video, becoming is better than being. It's not about reaching some fixed state of perfection, but constantly learning and evolving. The video uses Thomas Edison as an example, you know, the guy who invented the light bulb.
Oh, yeah, of course. Everyone knows Edison.
He famously went through thousands of failed attempts to create the light bulb. Imagine having a fixed mindset in that situation.
Oh my gosh, I'd give up after the first one.
Right. You'd probably give up after the first 100 tries. But Edison saw those failures as feedback, not roadblocks. It makes you think about all the amazing things we might miss out on if we let fear of failure dictate our actions.
Right, and this isn't just about, like, personal achievement either. The video connects this back to the business world and relationships, too.
Definitely. Imagine a company full of people with fixed mindsets. It probably wouldn't be a very innovative or enjoyable place to work. The video argues that companies that embrace a growth mindset are more likely to foster a culture of innovation and encourage their employees to take risks. Because if you're not afraid to fail, you're more likely to try new things. Right.
Makes sense. Less fear, more innovation.
That's the idea.
That reminds me of something the video touched on: employee recognition programs.
Mm.
Think of those Employee of the Month awards. They often end up rewarding the same people over and over again. You know, the ones who just seem to excel effortlessly.
The superstars.
But couldn't that actually reinforce a fixed mindset?
In everyone.
Yeah, both in those who are constantly winning and those who aren't.
Oh, absolutely. It creates this perception that some people are just naturally gifted while others aren't. Imagine if those programs celebrated effort, persistence, learning from mistakes, all the things that embody a growth mindset. I think it would create a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah, it would be like saying, hey, we value your journey, not just your destination. I love that. It makes you realize how deeply ingrained these mindsets can be, even in the systems we create.
It's everywhere if you start looking for it. The video even suggests that in relationships, a growth mindset can help couples view conflicts as opportunities to learn and grow together, rather than as signs that something is fundamentally wrong.
So instead of seeing disagreements as a threat, you're using them as a chance to understand each other better.
Right. You're both growing and learning.
Man, I'm starting to see how this one concept could transform so many areas of life. But this brings up a big question. If mindsets are so ingrained, can't we actually change them? Is it possible to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset?
That's where things get really exciting. The video actually spends a good chunk of time talking about how we can change our mindsets. It might not be easy, but it's absolutely possible. And we'll dig into the specifics in the next part of our deep dive. You know, one thing that really stood out to me from the video was the example of how these mindsets can play out in a company's culture.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about like individual employees either.
Right.
It's about the overall mindset of the leadership
Yeah.
and how that like trickles down.
They use the example of Enron, right?
Enron, yeah, that's a pretty dramatic example of what can happen when a fixed mindset takes over an entire organization.
Yeah, for sure.
The video talked about how Enron was obsessed with talent and brilliance,
Mhm.
but it was all about appearances.
Right.
They rewarded employees for looking successful,
Even if they were.
even if they were taking huge risks or even worse, covering up mistakes.
So it was like a house of cards
Yeah,
built on this idea that they were infallible.
exactly.
It's kind of terrifying to think about how easily a culture like that can develop.
It can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, they contrast Enron with Microsoft under Satya Nadella.
Okay.
When he took over as CEO, he made a conscious effort to shift the company culture towards a growth mindset.
Really?
Yeah. The video even mentioned how he encouraged employees to be learn-it-alls instead of know-it-alls.
Oh, I love that.
That's such a great way to sum up the difference, right?
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging that you never stop learning and growing.
Totally.
He emphasized learning collaboration and continuous improvement.
And it sounds like it worked.
And what's fascinating is that this shift in mindset coincided with a period of remarkable growth and innovation for Microsoft.
Wow, so it really did have an impact.
It's pretty amazing.
I wonder if part of what makes a growth mindset so powerful in a business setting is that it allows for more honest feedback.
Oh, interesting.
Because if everyone's focused on learning and growing,
Yeah,
then constructive criticism isn't seen as a personal attack.
that's a really insightful point.
Thanks.
It creates a space where people feel safe to experiment, to make mistakes, and to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And that kind of environment is crucial for fostering creativity and innovation.
Absolutely. You know, all this talk about business culture makes me think about the education system.
Yeah, good point.
I can't help but wonder how these mindsets are shaped in the classroom.
Right, from a young age.
Yeah.
The video doesn't go into too much detail about that, but it's
Yeah.
a crucial question, right?
Yeah.
If kids are constantly being praised for being smart or talented, does that set them up for a fixed mindset later on?
Because then they might start to believe
Yeah.
that their intelligence is fixed,
Aha.
and they might be afraid to take risks or try new things for fear of looking dumb.
That's exactly the kind of thinking a growth mindset tries to challenge.
Yeah.
It's about reframing our understanding of intelligence and ability.
So instead of focusing on like innate talent,
Right.
it's about emphasizing the importance of effort, perseverance, and learning from mistakes.
And importantly, it's about creating a learning environment where mistakes aren't seen as failures, but as opportunities for growth.
It's like a totally different way of looking at the learning process.
It really is.
I'm starting to realize just how pervasive these mindsets are.
They're everywhere.
They really do touch every aspect of our lives.
From how we work to how we learn, even how we interact with the people we love.
It's about how we see the world.
Exactly. And speaking of relationships, the video makes a pretty compelling case for how a growth mindset can be the foundation for a strong and lasting partnership.
Okay, so you're telling me that even disagreements in a relationship can be a good thing.
Well,
That seems counterintuitive.
I know, right?
Most people try to avoid conflict like the plague.
It's not that conflict itself is good,
Right.
but it's how you approach it that makes all the difference.
So,
With a fixed mindset, every disagreement feels like a threat to the relationship.
gotcha.
It's all about proving who's right and who's wrong.
Uh-huh.
But with a growth mindset, you can see those disagreements as opportunities to understand each other better and to strengthen the relationship.
So it's about using those conflicts to learn and grow together
Exactly.
instead of letting them tear you apart.
It's about being open to feedback even when it's hard to hear.
That's tough.
It is. It's about being willing to learn and grow both individually and as a couple.
I'm imagining a scenario where one partner is upset about something the other partner did.
Okay.
And instead of getting defensive or shutting down, they're able to say, okay, help me understand why you did that and how it made you feel.
Exactly. And that kind of open communication is crucial for building trust and intimacy. It allows you to work through challenges together instead of letting them fester and create resentment.
That makes a lot of sense. This is making me think about all the times I've gotten defensive in my own relationships.
We've all been there.
All the times I've missed an opportunity to learn and grow because I was so focused on being right.
It's so easy to fall into those fixed mindset patterns, especially in relationships where emotions run high. But the video suggests that with practice, we can rewire our brains to respond in a more growth-oriented way.
So how do we do that?
Yeah,
How do we actually start to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset?
that's the big
The
question.
video did mention that it's possible, right?
That's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, can't
It's the million-dollar question, and luckily, the video offers some practical strategies for making that shift.
All right, so we've talked about the differences between fixed and growth mindsets.
We have.
We've seen how they show up at work in our relationships.
Yeah, even in like huge companies.
But now for that million-dollar question, how do we actually shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? Is it even possible to rewire those beliefs?
Well, the video says yes, definitely. It might not be easy or quick,
Right.
but with effort and awareness, it's doable.
I like that. So where do we start?
Well, the first step, according to the video, is recognizing those fixed mindset thoughts when they come up.
So it's about being aware of that little voice in your head that says, I'm not good at this.
I'll never be able to do that.
Or like, I'm just not a creative person.
Exactly. That inner critic.
We all have it.
And it's about not just letting those thoughts run wild. Once you notice them, you can challenge them.
So instead of just like accepting those negative thoughts as the truth,
Right.
you start to question them.
Yeah. You're like,
Okay.
hold on. Is this thought even true? Is it helping me or holding me back?
So you treat it like a hypothesis,
I like that. A hypothesis that needs to be tested.
not just a fact.
The video gives a great example about reframing negative self-talk. Let's say you're trying to learn a new skill,
Okay.
and that fixed mindset voice is like, see, I knew it. You're just not good at this.
Happens all the time.
Instead of just like believing it and getting discouraged, you reframe the thought.
Give me an example.
You could say something like, okay, this is hard, but I'm learning and getting better every time I try.
So you're shifting the focus.
From the outcome to the process,
It's not about being perfect right away.
it's about recognizing that you're on a journey.
I love that. And that brings us back to how we view failure.
Dig one?
With a fixed mindset, failing just feels awful.
Like a punch in the gut.
It's personal.
But with a growth mindset, failure is just information.
Ada.
It's feedback, not a judgment of your worth.
That reminds me of that Thomas Edison quote.
The light bulb guy.
Yeah. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
Classic growth mindset.
He saw failure as part of the process.
Absolutely. And the video makes it clear that this isn't about ignoring our weaknesses or pretending we're perfect. It's about being honest with ourselves.
And then focusing on what we can control.
Exactly. Our effort, our persistence, our willingness to learn.
And our language.
Oh, yeah. The words we use matter.
So instead of saying, I can't do this,
Try saying, I can't do this yet.
that little word yet makes a big difference.
It implies possibility, growth.
And the video says that even these small changes in language,
Can start to change the way we think.
wow. And it's not just how we talk to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It's also about how we talk to others.
Especially kids.
If we're always praising kids for being smart,
talented, gifted.
are we accidentally giving them a fixed mindset?
It's possible. The video suggests focusing on praising their effort
Okay.
their persistence, the strategies they used.
So instead of saying, wow, you're so smart,
You could say, I'm impressed with how much effort you put into that. What strategies did you use?
that shows them that success comes from hard work.
Not just luck or natural ability.
And finally, the video talks about who you surround yourself with.
Your people.
If everyone around you is negative and giving up easily,
It's going to be hard to stay positive.
but if you're surrounded by people who are curious, who embrace challenges,
Who see setbacks as opportunities to learn.
it can be contagious.
It rubs off on you.
Yeah.
You know, this whole deep dive has been eye-opening. The more we talk about it, the more I see how deeply ingrained these mindsets are.
They're everywhere. In our culture, our schools, our relationships.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
But the good news is we can change.
We're not stuck.
It takes effort and awareness.
But shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset,
Can change everything.
our success, our happiness, our relationships, even our well-being.
I'm walking away from this with a whole new perspective.
Yeah.
I'm going to be more mindful of my self-talk and how I approach challenges.
Me too. It's a journey we're all on.
And for all of you listening out there,
Yeah, join us.
think about the areas of your life where you might be holding yourself back.
What could you achieve if you embraced a growth mindset?
That's something to think about.